Hello and welcome to Horror Cult Trash Over, the show that discusses all the masterpieces and the trash to pieces of genre cinema. My name's Chris.
And I'm Gary.
And we are in our second week of Japanuary.
Yes.
We've got a fantastic Japanese slasher film to discuss with you this week. But first of all, what's new with Chris and Gary? What have we been watching this week?
Still, and again, we haven't got a worst of the week. It's still nothing but bangers.
It's true.
Relentless bangers.
We're at that point now where we're coming up to awards season. And we're getting the awards. Well, I wouldn't say bait.
No.
Not really. I suppose
contenders.
Bait exists to be caught.
Contenders.
Yeah, and sometimes they're caught, sometimes they're not. But these are the films we're going to be seeing read out at the Oscars as winners or nominees. Apart from one.
Oh, yeah.
Apart from one, let's be honest. But my best film of the week is The Zone of Interest.
And that is my best film of the week.
I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. I thought it looked at something that we're all quite familiar with in film and in history. And I think it looked at it from a different angle and in a different way. And in doing so, it really shocked me.
Yeah.
Not shocked as in I didn't know these things were happening. But shocked as in realizing exactly what all that means.
Yeah.
So it's it's about Auschwitz and the concentration camp and World War II. And it's told from the perspective not of the Jewish people who were murdered at the concentration camp, but actually told from the perspective of the I believe he was the head supervisor at the camp, and his family, his wife and his children. And it was, I thought, phenomenal. It kept me gripped throughout, horrified, sickened. I just think it's a very powerful film. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, the best way I can describe it is it's one of the most disturbing films I've ever seen, but also a film that doesn't show a single second of violence on screen. Yeah. It's such a powerful way of filmmaking that I've not seen anything like it before.
No.
It might be the best war film I've seen. It's just the way it's handled. It's just unbelievable that you have to see it.
Yeah. I think sometimes with war films, and this isn't a detriment really, and it's not a bad thing, because I see some war films that are fantastic, but I think they tend to sometimes go into melodrama. Yeah. Or they tend to overemphasize for dramatic effect. Which is fine. Completely serves a purpose and works. This looks at it from a different angle. Yeah. And it felt fresh. It really worked for me. It really thought the film was fantastic. It feels weird to say that I really enjoyed the film because I didn't enjoy it, and that was the purpose. Yeah. I did. It affected me, and I thought about it all the way home. And when you've watched as many films as we have, it doesn't happen very often. No. That a film stays with me for so long afterwards. So I really highly recommend seeing The Zone of Interest.
Yeah. And I'm sure for both of us, the second best would have to be The Holdovers.
The Holdovers. And I said to Gary, because we watched them back to back, and I said to Gary, it's such a shame that we did, because The Holdovers was, again, fantastic.
And definitely, if it's a double bill you feel like doing, then watch it the other way around.
Yeah.
Watch the Zone of Interest first, and then the Holdovers.
Yeah.
The Holdovers is just so comforting and warm and fuzzy and just all those feelings, and hilarious, but also emotional at times too. And it manages to throw all these things together in what is essentially a very quiet film, a very quiet Christmas film, that absolutely nails its 70s aesthetic.
Yeah, what I really appreciated about the Holdovers is that it wasn't afraid to bring up issues of the time, of the 1970s. And some issues that are still around today,
Mm-hmm.
but it didn't look at the 70s necessarily through rose tinted glasses.
No.
But it didn't slap you across the head with it all.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't shake you into how you must feel this way. Look at this. Look at this.
Yeah.
It did it so subtly and in what was a very heartwarming film and really likable characters that a lot of film and filmmakers struggle to do.
Yeah.
And I thought it was great. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
Loved the aesthetic. Loved the acting.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really liked the acting. And yeah, another film highly, highly recommend.
Yeah. And I think it's also worth mentioning the fact that we watched Mean Girls.
We did watch Mean Girls. We
the musical.
Two homosexuals speaking to a mic on a podcast. I feel it necessary. Well, we are also both in our 30s, so it's very necessary to talk about the Mean Girls remake.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I thought it was great. It's just, everything that works for the original film, but just with added songs and really good songs like that.
Yeah, it fixed a couple of issues with the original in terms of what was maybe a little more acceptable in 2004. I'm glad that they fixed those. I liked the songs, which ultimately, if you don't like the songs, you don't like the musical.
Yeah.
Loved the majority of the songs. I liked it. It wasn't too far removed from Mean Girls. I did see on TikTok somebody said that maybe Mean Girls didn't need a remake, and that's why people are struggling with it.
But it's not true.
Because it didn't feel too far removed from the original Mean Girls.
But just fixing those things and adding the certain things in there for modern day kind of makes it new and fresh for a new generation.
Yeah, to a certain degree. But I think it hit all the marks that the first one did. So, and I love the first film. The first film was very much of my time. I was 16 when it came out. I watched it. I listened to that random sitting in Jane Mansfield's car song. Do you remember that one?
I do.
Yeah, I downloaded that legally. Yeah, so this was, I felt like this was in part made for me as well, and I liked it.
Definitely. I
liked it.
And on top of that, we finished. I don't know if we spoke about this on the last episode. We finished Echo. I don't know if we spoke about. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
Did we?
did, yeah.
Yeah.
And a great
Repeating
ending.
yourself.
Great ending.
There's an Echo.
Yeah. Really, really a great show that deserves a little more attention than it's getting. I know, obviously, with the amount of stuff in the MCU, it's easy to lose a few things if you're not fully dedicated to keeping up with it. But this is definitely one of the shows that's worth watching.
Yeah, I'm a bit annoyed. I don't want to get too much into it. I feel like I say that every time we discuss the MCU. But now that the MCU is waning just a little bit, now they've here's some female-centered stories. Oh, here's a story very much very much about Native American culture, which is fantastic. And I really I love seeing that.
Yeah.
Really do. Because it hits a lot of the marks that superhero miniseries and films hit. But it just annoys me that this is when they decide to tell these stories.
Yeah.
I wish they would have told them earlier so we can get some eyes on it.
Mm-hmm.
I may be wrong. I'm no expert on the MCU, and I hope people have watched it. But yeah, I would recommend people watch it. Yeah. And just off the topic of films, personally, I've started making my way through the Legend of Zelda games.
Yeah.
Some of them again. First one great. Second one, the drizzling shit. Legend of Zelda 2, Link's Adventure. I gave up. I've given up at least 20 times. I fucking hate the game.
So you have a worst of the week?
I have a worst of the week. The worst of the week is Legend of Zelda 2. Yeah, hated it. And now I'm doing A Link to the Past.
Yeah. So yeah, games can also be included in the
Oh,
worst of the week.
okay. Well, I mean, yeah. I was trying to be positive.
Onto the subject of TV, though, we watched 2 TV specials from the 60s.
We certainly did.
Elizabeth Taylor in London and Sophia Loren in Rome, which are very much Jane McDonald coded. They're just going around talking shit about how great London and Rome is. Sophia Loren plays a few pranks on the public.
Hers seems to be a little bit of Beatles about. A little bit of the Real World show, and
Elizabeth Taylor gets possessed.
She quotes Shakespeare a lot. I don't know the context. These are made for TV films. For American TV from the 60s, and I don't know what the premise was. Get 2 of the most glamorous, beautiful, and talented women on the planet to talk about a particular city. I'm living for it. Would have loved to have seen Catherine Deneuve's Paris, but
I mean, we've got Jane McDonald's Yorkshire.
We have, yes.
Jane is back on the TV.
She's in the Canary Islands.
On Friday night, we watched her go to a nudist meditation retreat and talk to horses.
High camp TV.
And, of course, we'd be terrible gays if we didn't mention The Traitors. It's still going, and those twists are still coming.
They are. Hopefully no spoilers for anyone. This is the UK Traitors.
Yes.
We know that American Traitors is happening as well, and we'd like to watch that because there's a few housewives on there. I hear Phaedra's doing really well. But this is the UK Traitors, where it's not celebrities, it's just normal members of the public. So yeah, they banished the
hang on. Okay, maybe we shouldn't go too much into spoilers. The banishment was made.
Yeah,
and we're very happy about it.
Of the main antagonist.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the cliffhanger that was left on Friday. It's something that I'm impatient for Wednesday.
Yeah. Okay, let's not get too much into the trailers.
So, with that being said,
let's get into the film. This week's film.
Yes.
Evil Dead Trap from 1988.
It is. Creepy film for a creepy night. If our microphone is really, really good, then you'll probably be able to hear there's soaring wind.
Yeah, there's quite the storm brewing outside. We had What's New with Chris and Gary. We had snow this week as well, which was very exciting. But now it's rather stormy.
Very fitting because this film is really creepy.
It is. And just as a warning, from here on out, spoilers.
Yeah.
If you have not watched the film, I do not want the film to be spoiled for you, because there is twists and turns. Then stop listening, watch the film, and then come back and listen to us.
Yeah. A trigger warning for a slight discussion of sexual assault as well.
Yes.
Now the spoiler warning's out the way, this is 80s Japanese Malignant.
It is.
Amazing to me that this has near enough the exact same twist as Malignant. And of course, if you listen to our episode on that film, you'll know we loved it. But this is like even more wild with what it does.
This does exactly what you think it's gonna do, in that it doesn't do what you think. It goes completely wild. It's a Japanese take on giallo slash slasher films. It's the Japanese take on it. So it hits a lot of the marks that slasher films and giallos do, because they're quite similar. Obviously slasher films came from giallo and so on and so forth. So it hits a lot of those marks. But because it's a Japanese film, it takes it so much further.
It does. You got one act that's a mystery thriller, one act that's gory slasher, and then the third act where all bets are off and it's just fucking wild.
It is.
It's directed by Toshiharu Ikeda, who did Ningyo Densetsu, Kagi, Hasami Otoko, Sweet Sweet Ghost, Gansaza, Beautiful Prey, Girl Boss Mafia Lynch, Female Prisoner Scorpion Death Threat, The Brutal Insanity of Love, which is Evil Dead Trap 3, and more. And it's written by Takashi Ishii, who did Original Sin, Hello My Dolly Girlfriend, The Five, Gone in Saga, Sweet Obsession, A Night in Nude, Salvation, Alone in the Night, Girl and the Wooden Horse Torture, and more. It's made on an unknown budget, and I don't know how much it made. But I can tell you one thing: I want to see more of Toshiharu Ikeda's films.
Yes, I feel very much. I've got a couple of names down as well. Zoom Up, the Beaver Book Girl, and Angel Guts, Red Porno.
Yeah.
So I feel like their careers are very much
pink cinema.
Yeah. Softcore pornography, and I think maybe some hardcore pornography as well.
Potentially.
So that's very much their, for want of a better word, their bread and butter.
Yeah.
That's what paid the bills for them. And then this is their take on a slasher film.
Yeah.
And it's something you see a lot in American cinema as well. The two, let's be honest, low budget genres, low budget, high potential genres, horror and porn, very much akin. So yeah, a very, very interesting. We have a strange history, the two of us, with pink cinema.
Well, let's just leave it there. Just let everyone figure out what we mean.
Yeah, with some of it we really enjoy, and some of it we've absolutely detested. Really struggled with.
What did we enjoy?
It depends what you consider pink cinema.
Japanese Wife Next Door.
Japanese Wife Next Door. Inflatable Dolls of the Wasteland. We switched off.
We did.
But then there are other ones. I mean, in some lists, Lady Snowblood is considered.
Yeah, I suppose if you look at the gore-heavy ones, then there is a lot we enjoy. I think
Stray Cat Rock films are considered as well.
I think it's one of those where we kind of figured out we didn't enjoy it when it came to the softcore porn ones. Yeah. So then we just didn't continue with those.
Yeah. Stuff like Tortures of Edo, we really struggled with.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there are, I feel, a couple of moments that in this film that allude to that, and you'll find out they're my least favorite. Yeah, really, for the film.
It's weird. It's weird because a lot of the pink cinema films where the focus was sex and they are softcore porn, it kind of focuses a lot on sexual assault. Yes. And to get people off, which is, for me, I just don't understand how that's a thing, and how anyone would want to see that. But there we go.
I wouldn't even say it's an each to their own. It's highly problematic.
It's very weird.
It's very weird. Yes, it's a sign of the times, to a certain degree, but even then, it's not. It's not. And we'll discuss it because it does come up, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, definitely. Would you say we are quite well versed in Japanese horror of the 80s, because honestly, I feel like it's a bit of a blind spot for us.
I don't know if there were many Japanese horror films of the 80s.
Yeah, I mean,
off the top of my head, I'm sure somebody would be able to reel off a huge list for us.
well, some of the most popular ones, Virus, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, has come up as horror currently.
I assume there's moments.
Heat, Shimmer Theatre, Crazy for the Road, which we do own but we haven't watched. The Gamera film, Gamera Super Monster, was in the 80s.
Yes.
Mystery Train. Grave of the Fireflies.
Okay, yeah, well, it depends how you see horror.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And
I mean, I purchased for yourself Door,
yes.
which has from the same year, 1988, as Evil Dead Trap, but has always been considered the first Japanese slasher, giallo.
Well, looking on here, the films we have seen are the Shinya Tsukamoto films, Tetsuo the Iron Man, The Adventures of Denshu Kozo, Sweet Home, Evil Dead Trap, and very recently, The Discarnates. So,
okay, yeah.
I feel like there's way more 80s Japanese horror we need to watch, because, I mean, if it's like this and those films, then count me in.
Yeah, no, absolutely, completely agree. I feel like we have a few blind spots, don't we, really?
Because, I mean, I feel like this is very similar to The Discarnates in the way that you got you got the first two acts where there are certain genres, certain way of doing things, but then the third act just completely takes a completely different route that you don't expect and goes really over the top.
Yeah, no, completely agree.
Should we talk about who's in it?
Yeah, in a section we like to call "Hey, I Know You," which this week I don't think I know anyone.
Well, no, not unless you're well versed in Japanese porn.
Yeah.
So this film, a lot of the cast consists of porn stars.
Yes.
With some of these titles, I don't know which ones that includes and which ones it doesn't. We have Miyuki Ono, who plays Nami Tsuchiya, and she was in Black Rain, Time Wars, Legend of the Holy Woman, Black Angel Volume 1, Bad Girls, Hakuchi the Innocent, Hong Kong Paradise, and more.
Black Rain.
Yeah.
An American cop in Japan, their country, their laws, their game, his rules. Ridley Scott.
No.
Yeah, Michael Douglas.
Oh my
in
god.
The lead. Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah. So yeah. That's on my watch list now.
Nami Tsuchiya, I think she is a fantastic final girl.
I completely disagree with you.
Really?
I think she's so stupid.
But did you not see the third act when she goes back to get her revenge?
Absolutely, and then kind of fucks it up.
She had explosions.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that. I do think she's completely responsible for everything that happens in this film. She's completely responsible for everybody who dies. And spoiler alert, she's the one at the end who's on the TV going, "Oh, these people died." Yeah, you did it. You did it, bitch. Now, she may or may not win an award later because she's thick as pig shit, but she looks good doing it. So
I was
still
Weathers.
Do you know who she was given?
Who?
Auntie McDowell.
Yeah.
Like that hair. There is, I swear, a picture of Andy McDowell with that hair and that outfit.
Oh, that's Sigourney Weaver, an eyewitness.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, she's dressed like a reporter. That's how reporters dress.
Yeah.
And that's how they did dress. So.
Yuji Hanma plays Dasuki Miraki.
Oh, do you know the only reporter that didn't dress like that?
Who?
April McNeil.
Wow.
Oh, April O'Neil, not McNeil.
Reagan's sister.
I was gonna say.
Yuji Hanma was in The 19-Year-Old's Map, Crazed Fruit, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, Bebop High School, Yakuza Ladies Free, Cabaret, not that Cabaret, and more.
Yeah. Obviously, we've heard of Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. I, yeah, I'm assuming these films were filmed in Japan and therefore got local talent. So I don't think they were trying to break into America or Britain with those films.
Someone who probably should have became a worldwide success. Hitomi Kobayashi, who plays Rei Sugiura, star of Hitomi Kobayashi's young girl story, Hard Petting, Hitomi Kobayashi's True Nature, Kobayashi Hitomi versus Takasugi Rei, Double Petting, Hitomi Kobayashi's Secret Pleasure, and more. I love that her name is at the forefront of all these films.
Yeah.
Go on, girl.
She's also in Hell in a Bottle, which looks very interesting, actually. But yeah, I suppose quite a prominent porn star. I mean,
yeah.
You would get Jenna Jameson's Double Petting or whatever, wouldn't you? So she must have been quite the name in Japan.
Good for her.
Well, yeah, I think she was up for the lead.
Yeah,
but they weren't quite sure of her actual acting abilities. So, spoiler alert: she's the first one killed.
Well, yeah.
So,
and someone who doesn't necessarily have the biggest role, but deserves a mention because of the career, it's Shinsuke Shimada as a TV producer. And this is noticeable because they're in The Legend of the Stardust Brothers.
Oh.
As well as Kaze Slowdown, Garufu, Yakame, Empire of Kids, Gendai Ninkoden, Granny Gabai, and more.
Oh, do you mean the police officer?
I've got him down as TV producer.
Oh, have you? Oh, yes, excuse me. Because Noboru Matani was also in Stardust Brothers.
Oh, nice.
And he plays the police officer at the end, and he was in Sweet Home and Black Rain and Dodos Kaiden as well, the Kurosawa film. So yeah, there's a few names that we, thanks to the power of the internet, have learned more about their filmography and added a few to the watch list as well. Yes,
including Double Petting.
What about Aya Katsuragi and her film Big Boobs Buster? A scream rings across the night. Another buxom bombshell falls prey to the masked vigilante, the Big Boobs Buster. Rumour has it that the vengeful villainess was once a mild-mannered student, ridiculed and rejected for her small bust size. Now the spurned woman gets even by donning a ridiculous costume and taunting her well-endowed nemesis. Will bouncy co-eds across the land be forced undercover? Is any bosomy beauty safe from the Big Boobs Buster?
Well, of course we need to watch that.
Of course we need to watch that. It must be difficult being a woman. I have to say, we celebrate women all the time on this podcast, as you well know. The big boobs and the small boobs, the medium boobs, any of them. But I'm assuming that it is men who have written, produced, directed, filmed all of these films. And I feel for you, ladies, sometimes.
On that note, let's talk about our feature presentation.
Yeah, so we open with our heroine, Nami, presenting for her TV show. Is it Nami's Late Show?
No, not yet. First, it's Late Night with Nami. Now, I can understand why you'd think it's called that, because for some reason, jumping ahead a little bit, after all her friends are murdered, the name of the show is changed to Nami's Late Night.
Right,
I don't know why. I don't know why she needed to change it, but at first, it's Late Night with Nami.
Okay, so Late Night with Nami, and she's horrified by an alligator eating a bird. So we kind of know what we're in for now.
The whole idea of this is cap. I don't. It's kind of like, it feels a little like Wreck in the way, you know, the thing they're filming for in Wreck that sets the whole premise up.
Yeah,
how it's late night TV.
Yes.
This is what you don't see whilst you. I think it was called Whilst You Sleep in that film.
Yeah.
And this is very much the same idea, except here it's just really camp because it's just her showing really weird home movies sent to her by fans, and then her reactions to these things.
So it's not too far removed from something like Eurotrash.
Yeah.
Or oh god, what was it called? Is it Tarrant on TV?
Something like that.
Yeah, where and I'm sure there's stuff in America, but they're kind of a saucy version or a more adult orientated version of America's Funniest Home Videos, that sort of thing.
You've Been Framed.
Oh, You've Been Framed.
Yeah, I'd watch this. I'm sold.
I would watch it. I would absolutely watch it. We realise that some unknown persons are watching her on screen and comparing her to their mother.
Mm-hmm.
We then cut to Nami receiving and then watching a tape that appears to be a boring dashcam style video until it cuts to a chained woman being stabbed in the stomach and then the eye with rather graphic detail. So it spurts. So she gets stabbed in the stomach and then stabbed in the eye, and it pierces it, and we see everything, you know, all the juicy bits come out, and it's like, oh my god, you know,
very, very Videodrome.
Very Videodrome. I'm assuming it's a Manuel reference. The Chien Andalou, where the woman's eye is sliced. Also, maybe also a reference to zombie flesh eaters.
Yeah,
with the eye, you know, they thought she loved the eye, and I think this is highly influenced by Italian giallo and Italian cinema, and you know, and I don't want to get maybe too much into this was influenced by because it definitely feels like its own thing.
Oh, definitely.
To a certain degree, but in the sense of it's taken influences.
The best part, the best part about this is the fact that it's called Evil Dead Trap, and something we need to address, because if it was released in Italy and it was called Evil Dead Trap, there's a good chance there'd be a few things in there trying to rip off Evil Dead, and it claimed to be a sequel.
Yeah,
this has nothing to do with the Evil Dead.
No, except the what's it called, the famous shot,
the Sam Raimi cam,
cam that is frequently used throughout.
It is, but other than that, there's nothing else here connecting it to Evil Dead. So I don't know. Part of me gets the title and why it's called Evil Dead Trap, considering a lot of the film later on consists around traps by a evil person who's supposedly dead. So technically it's very literal.
But it's called Evil Dead Trap in the West.
Yeah.
So in America and the UK.
Yeah. Is it a literal translation?
No. So known in Japan is Shirayo no Wana.
Yeah.
Please excuse my awful pronunciation. Which literally means trap of the dead spirits.
I mean, that makes more sense.
Yeah. So I think it was called
America.
Evil Dead Trap.
Yes.
And I'm assuming it is because the transitions between scenes do give that Sam Raimi thing. So I don't think it's completely removed.
No, but I think it is
also
America trying to get that extra buck in there for their sales.
Japan did do an Evil Dead remake.
Yeah.
Or rip-off. Depends if they paid them or not, Sam Raimi or not. And that was called
Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell.
Yeah, so nothing of the sort.
No.
That should have been called Evil Dead Trap. So yeah, we see that in very graphic detail, and you'll hear me say that a lot when describing this film. Some real graphic detail. So, recognizing the location, Nami wants to investigate the tape, but her viewership is dropping, and her show is continuously over budget, so her boss just won't allow her to.
Yeah.
This doesn't last very long. A lot of the minor issues are resolved very quickly, because she decides to go rogue anyway, and gathers together a small team to investigate the abandoned factory from the snuff tape. When they get there, they decide to split up.
Yeah.
And she's with Rei, Akio, Masako, and Rai.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, in true slasher film style, it's hard to distinguish between their characteristics.
They're very much disposable characters.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm not even sure what their professions are. I think one of them's a makeup assistant.
Akio's the assistant director. But the others, the crew. The crew.
Yeah, it's not really established their characters, but that's fine.
I mean, one of them's like, who would want to do this? And Akayo's like, an oily old man who wants to wear Nami's panties over his grinning head.
Yeah.
Akayo is a choice, this character.
He is.
We all get that in slasher films, there's always meant to be someone that, or maybe a few people, but there's always at least one where you're like, oh god, they've got to get it really bad. This guy's fucking relentless. I mean, he's not only a prankster. Number one, you're a goner in a slasher film if you're a prankster.
He's the Shelley.
Yeah, but he's also a rapist as well. And
it's
attempted.
It's hard to distinguish. So Rei and Akio, they go off together. Nami goes off by herself, and Masako and Rai go off together. So Rei and Akio, they seem to have some sort of romantic history, or at least Akio would have hoped.
Yeah.
So he says, sorry about the other night. It was from drinking too much bourbon. And Rei says, yeah, but you never stopped trying. Akio says, don't hurt me like that. What if I'm impotent forever? And Rei says, look, I'm here to work. Save the personal stuff for later. And it feels like that was maybe played for laughs.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, what is he like? Sort of thing. And it's not. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It has no place. Nothing comes of it later on.
No.
So it's a very silly conversation to have.
The problem is
for comic relief of some sort.
I mean, it does come back later on when he tries to, in his words, make the sequel.
Yeah, so we then have our first Evil Dead-esque shots, as me and Gary were discussing. Nami finds a rotting bird being eaten by bugs before a really cool dude with sunglasses and a ciggy appears from nowhere. I don't know if he's trying a James Dean, John Wayne kind of thing, just looking really cool in the doorway. But he warns her it's not a playground for adults and that she ought to be careful before he just casually walks off. So you kind of think he's the crazy Ralph.
Yeah.
You're all doomed. Ray stumbles around alone for a bit to build some tension. Snake decides against slithering up her skirt. I'm assuming the filmmakers couldn't get the snake to go up her leg.
No.
So it's just sort of like, well, insinuate that it wanted to, but then just stopped. And then she falls through a wall and straight onto her arse. Akio scares her with some fake fangs because he's the original prankster, and he manages to break his glasses.
He does.
Because he's also the original dickhead in this film as well.
Yeah.
Masako and Rai do their own investigating, taking photos of random shit.
Mm-hmm.
And seemingly Rai would much rather be doing some ballet.
She's doing a great dance.
She does. She is.
Is cunty. I'm here for it in a shitty pink jumper. Okay, you can't say you hated Shizui's cardigan in Happiness of the Katakuris, but you like this jumper.
But this is, it's a little cute little pink jumper to go with her cute little skirt.
It's like what Sarah Connor wears in Terminator before she decides she wants to slay in Terminator 2. But it's it's a choice. But while she's doing this dance, Masako's there like, do you know what? We've got a fucking tough time as women in production teams. They're not interested in female production teams anymore. It's making our job more difficult. I'm like, girl, fucking tell them.
Yes. Unless it's a slasher film, then all the production team is female. We then cut to Rei and Akio getting it on a dirty mattress. So we have a sex scene here.
We do,
and this is where I take issue. Because she said no the other night. They had a whole conversation, as unhilarious as that was. They had a whole conversation. She said no the other night.
Yeah.
But she just couldn't resist a shag in a filthy, abandoned factory with a snake roaming around.
Yeah. But this is my problem, is that before that, the last time we see them, before the steamy sex scene, he forces himself on her. He forces himself on her, and then he's like, come on, let's create the sequel to The Other Day. So again, it feels like it's played for laughs.
Yes. And then it cuts to the sex scene.
It's attempted rape. He's trying it on with her, like, and she's saying no. He won't give up.
Yeah, and it was very... I don't think it's... I do think it's a sign of the times to a certain degree. But I don't think it's just something we see in Japanese cinema. We see it, all the time in American cinema.
Yeah.
Very much... part of slasher film, all the girl won't put out, how's the guy gonna get his leg over, all that shit. Even in 1988, we've watched a couple of John Hughes films that must have been seen quite innocent at the time, which are very much not innocent now, and it doesn't excuse it.
No.
They should know better.
Definitely.
Especially if it's played for laughs.
Yeah.
I talk a lot about having... Actually, we'll speak on that later, because unfortunately this isn't the last time we were speaking on such subjects.
No. It's back to the subject of the warehouse, though, and you're saying about how dirty and rusty it is. This is a really great location choice. It is so... I think this is what makes the film so creepy, is that it doesn't look like... It looks like it may have skipped a few safety checks.
Definitely, yeah.
It looks like it could be a hazard.
Low budget filmmaking.
It's low budget filmmaking. It looks like, some drug users could be hiding about in there, like on a YouTube video of urban explorers.
Yeah.
But, with the lighting and everything as well, there's a lot of blue tinted alleyways, corridors, and... yeah, it's really eerie. And so is the killer's outfit.
Yes, because it's revealed that a cloaked figure is keeping a gagged man hostage within the factory. Yeah. So it's that reveal where our protagonists are in the background and we have a reveal in the foreground that they can't see. And it's... I don't know how to describe it. It's giving a little bit of... I Know What You Did Last Summer.
It is, yeah.
But less for wet weather.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's the mask there as well, which I think is like a camouflage.
It's camouflage, yeah.
Yeah, it is incredibly creepy, actually. It's green, like a big green coat. And yeah, this guy's got a gag in his mouth and all that business, and you're like, oh, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Ray goes to find a faucet to clean her clothes, but finds maggots dropping from the ceiling instead. She also finds the corpse from the snuff film too, and she's then repeatedly stabbed from beyond the wall with very large spikes.
Yeah, this really took me by surprise when we first watched it. It's very out of nowhere, and it is graphic.
It's very gruesome.
There's a lot of samurai-esque blood spots in this film, which is I always appreciate.
Yes, yeah, I do. With Japanese cinema, I love that over the top blood spurt, and which is also, I mean, we saw in Tenebrae as well, actually.
Yeah.
You know, but that was way before Tenebrae as well. In sort of Lady Snowblood and Wolfman and Cub.
Yes, Lone Wolf and Cub.
Lone Wolf and Cub, thank
you.
But
also Wolfman.
Yeah,
Wolf guy.
Yeah. I'm getting them mixed up, but you know what I mean.
The practical effects, I think where they saved money on the cast by potentially hiring people who weren't charging the most, I think the money went into the practical effects.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely think for a film like this, that is your selling point.
Yeah.
So the others continue their investigations. Rai quite rightfully has reservations regarding the whole thing. Like, why are we here?
Yeah.
Is this a trap? Like an Evil Dead kind of... No, she doesn't actually say that. And she believes that the snuff film was there to lure them to their deaths. Quite rightfully so. She does get over this quite quickly, though, and laughs along with everyone else when Akio plays another one of his hilarious pranks, hiding behind a door. Wow. This again doesn't last long. This happiness, when Ray's body, or should I say the top half at least of her body, comes hurtling towards them on a chain. Rai runs out of the building ahead of the others, who remain trapped when the ceiling collapses. The killer appears, slashes Masako across the face, and then she herself then gets separated, very much in slasher film style.
Very cool scene. In the way that, and now this is also what makes me think James Wan watched this film. Because this is very similar to the scene in Saw when Lee Wan-out is going back to his apartment and using his camera to see in the dark. Yes. And we get the jump scare in that. Here we have Masako using her camera flash to try and see what's going on. And we get a prison cage, and then she's slashed across the face, and it's kind of like, what the fuck is going on? Because I find it a little more creepy than even some of the more gore-heavy scenes, because it's kind of like, okay, well, what the fuck is he trying to do to her? Because he doesn't quite kill her at first, even when he meets her again.
Yeah.
It's really, really eerie. And that's the thing well shot.
With horror, we've watched so many slasher films where the gore is the only thing you ever remember. And this is a very gory film. And it's memorable, of course.
Yeah.
But so many of these films, they forget to build tension.
Yeah.
And they forget to be scary. Or because that's what true horror is. It's being on the edge of your seat, and it's caring about characters. And I have to say, a lot of these characters are quite throwaway characters. But scenes like this make it quite eerie.
Yeah, I think if you
builds the tension.
Yeah, you've got a good setup. You've got a great villain. It's going to be scary if you care or if you don't care about the characters.
Yeah. So, Rai tries to escape in the van, but the previously gagged man from before is in the back of the van, and he grabs her. He says, "If I kill trespassers, I'll be set free." He then says, "Killing you would be too easy. I want to enjoy this." Then, unfortunately, we get a very lengthy scene of him sexually assaulting her within the van. The guy explains that he is the boyfriend or the husband of the woman from the snuff film. It's extremely uncomfortable.
It is.
It's extremely unnecessary. It brings we say this about films that we don't enjoy, and we can say this about films that we do enjoy overall. Completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
With these sort of things, there's no point putting it on screen if you're not going to deal with it, because it's a very serious subject. And I know that sounds strange in a film where we're discussing very elaborate, over-the-top murders.
Yeah.
But it's just, I've said it time and time again, it's just completely unnecessary.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. And particularly in this case, because I can't figure out if it's meant to be a cheap TNA. Because it goes on for far too long.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're associating it with Pink Cinema. And how that was such a reoccurring thing in that, it, sadly would make sense if that was the case. But it should never be the case.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And sadly, it's actually the only thing, spoiler for later on, it's the only thing stopping it from getting a full 5-star rating from me. Because, I mean, it's one of the things where when rating a film, I would mark down, because it's just like, just don't include it. If you're not going to deal with it, just don't include it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the things, I don't expect them to deal with it. I don't expect them to deal with it in a film like this. Once we get into the third act, this is essentially a fantasy film.
Yeah.
So, realistically, there isn't time to deal with the after effects of someone being sexually assaulted.
No.
In which case, the only way to solve that is don't include it in the first place.
Absolutely. The man is eventually impaled and killed by a pole being thrown through the window of the van. And Rai escapes the van, but is very quickly killed by a metal noose around her neck that pulls her onto the roof of the van and then drops her on her head on the other side, breaking her neck.
Yeah.
Which is a really kind of cool... And I hate saying it like this, but it's horror film. It's a gory horror film.
Yeah.
We can, suspend belief in these things.
It's also very mean-spirited.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, it looks great. It looks great, but it's kind of like...
And particularly after what's just happened.
Yeah.
It's very mean-spirited. But, we are horror fans, so if if we've kind of seen a kill that we've never seen before, part of you is a bit like, oh, nice.
Yeah.
Something a little different, And it is a little different, but yes, very mean-spirited. Nami, for some reason, wakes up on the roof. Did I miss something there when she got knocked out? Or
No.
Okay.
They fell down a hole.
Yeah. Oh, did they fall down a hole?
When they were escaping and everything was caving in.
Okay. The problem sometimes with making notes whilst watching a film is that you kind of miss...
It was a scene where a lot was going on.
Especially when there's subtitles that you're trying to keep track of as well, But she's joined by the really cool dude from earlier, who we now find out is called Daisuke, who shows her Akio's severed head on the ground. Ooh.
Shame we didn't get to see it.
Yeah, that stings a little. The dickhead. It's a bit like what is it? Friday the 13th Part 2.
No, the first one.
No, yeah, the first one.
Well, the second one is just survives.
Yeah,
the
he
first
survives.
one is off screen. The second
it's
one
off
survives.
screen, and then the third one, Shelley.
And that's a great death.
Yeah. So it made up for it. But yeah, this dickhead, we don't get to see his death, but we get to see his severed head. He tells her that he is trapped like her, but he does seem to know the culprit or culprits. He is reluctant to tell her, though, because he isn't good at speaking to people, having been in prison for a while. I was like, okay. Nami, this is where, you say, okay. You're red flag.
Yeah, it's when he wanders off and starts talking to himself as well.
Yes. He gets stabbed in the shoulder out of Nami's view.
Yeah.
And then pulls out a gun before running off and shooting whatever person he believes to be there.
Yeah.
So we know he was talking to himself. Mm-hmm. Spoiler alert. But I suppose Nami didn't.
Yeah.
Because it's two rather distinctive voices. Nami sees a video of Masako tied up and calling out for her before finding a whole wall of TVs with Masako calling out for her as well.
Yes.
She finds the room with Masako in, and she tries to force the door open, not knowing that an elaborate trap has been set up that sends a crossbow bolt hurtling towards Masako's head when the door is opened. Luckily for the two ladies, the bolt misses Masako's head, but another tripwire sends a machete into the side of Masako's head, killing her. Again, really gruesome.
It is
really mean-spirited.
Mm-hmm. And again, James Wan saw.
Oh yeah, it's true. But yeah, I'm. This was a little too late for Video Nasties, and I'm assuming they never tried to get a release here in the UK at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know of any sort of issues in regards to release. I don't think was it ever released on DVD here. Do you know in the UK? Our versions, the what we watched was the American Blu-ray.
No, I think the latest upcoming release
is the first time, which is really cool.
Yeah. But just to let you know, I did a quick Google to see if James Wan has openly spoken about Evil Dead Trap. He has not.
No.
Many people on the internet are saying exactly what we're saying and talking about its similarities to Saw and Malignant.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, cool. I mean,
great.
We watch so many films. If we ever made a film together, absolutely, you know, all our influences would be in there. Yeah. So the killer appears and for some reason throws fireworks at Nami and then more bolts. One of the bolts hits her in the leg. But Daisuke appears again, shooting his gun. They go off together, trying to escape, and for some reason, Daisuke's lighter makes Nami suspicious.
Which, I could understand. For me, it kind of looks like the lighter she used in the car when she was lighting a cigarette. Yeah, and it did kind of make a point of it. So it kind of looks to me like he's taken that lighter and just handed it to her without thinking. I feel
like maybe if the lighter was a little more elaborate, like, do you know, if it had like a symbol on it or something, maybe we'd remember it a little more. But we get the gist that a red flag has appeared in the shape of a lighter. Yeah. So, in an underground tunnel, Daisuke asks some highly inappropriate questions before collapsing on the floor from his stab wound. And then starts talking about his younger brother who died or may have been kidnapped. He's very confused, or I was at least confused by what he was getting at.
Yeah.
I now realise why, because, you know, it will be revealed. He asks, is he a stalker? I don't know why I gave it.
Is he a stalker?
Is he a stalker? Do you think he wants to see you naked? Could he not just visit you at the studio? Do you sleep with visitors? Yeah, highly inappropriate. Daisuke tells Nami that she looks like shit and gives her... she does. You look like Andy McDowell who's been dragged through a bush backwards. And then he gives her the gun to go ahead and escape with. And she uses the gun, she escapes, she drives the van and leaves. And the end of the... Oh, wait, no, she doesn't.
Well, before this, and I need to mention it because it might come back later on in the episode, but before she gets the arrow shot into her leg, you know, when all the fireworks being thrown at her, she has a cunty monologue where she's like, just kill me.
Oh, she does.
Just kill me, pervert.
Yeah.
Is killing really that much fun? Do you enjoy it? Well, I'm not afraid of you. You're never going to beat me. And yes, she does get shot in the leg straight after with an arrow, but I was slayed.
Yeah, I did. And I don't know if this was deliberate or not, but it felt like the arrows or the crossbow bolts were deliberately set up just to make her skirt a little shorter.
Yeah. Would not surprise me.
But I didn't feel like in a parody kind of way, in a let's see her in a fight kind of way. So Nami gets to the van and finds Ray's body, and she rightfully feels bad about getting everyone killed, especially after Rai wanted to go home and the others had deadlines.
Yeah.
And she wanted them to stay because she was investigating this because her popularity of her show is dwindling and she needs something like this. And everyone died because of this. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. At least she's acknowledged it. The killer takes a very slow walk to the van as Nami hides. And the killer drags the two bodies from the van without seeing Nami. So Nami is free to make her escape, go to the authority. Oh, wait, no.
No. Because she decides to serve instead. She ties her hair up.
What she decides to do is in the van, she finishes off a can of coffee from earlier. Now it's daytime. She ties back her hair and goes back to the tunnel to finish this once and for all. So good for her, okay?
Yeah.
That's cunty, yeah. Also very brave. To swig a can of coffee that's been open all night after a very tense evening.
Been around some dead bodies as well.
Been around some dead bodies. To then swig that coffee. I mean, the last thing you need in a situation like this is a code brown emergency.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't think she should be swigging cans of coffee.
As we've discussed on this podcast before, people don't shit in
people
films.
Don't
Not all the
shit
time,
in
anyway.
films. Unless they eat damn enchiladas.
Yes.
Yes. Nami. Ooh. You wouldn't catch me doing that first thing in the morning before I go and fight an evil serial killer. Nami then finds at the end of the tunnels a room with hospital beds in, where she can hear a female voice putting her son to sleep. She finds a side room with a kitchen and food, etc., and many TVs with her show playing. Do you think this set was absolutely used for a porn film? Yes. Before or after?
Probably.
They probably shot it whilst they were shooting Evil Dead Trap as well. And I love that. I mean, I love the hustle with these sort of things. As long as you're, treating people correctly and rightfully. I appreciate the hustle when it comes to this. Horror porn adjacent filmmaking. She finds a photo of a young man and his mother, and the mother looks very much like Nami, and the mother has been stuck with many pins.
Yeah.
The voice is heard again, and she realizes it's a recording, and she says to herself, "He thinks I'm his mother." There you go. You're getting the gist.
She's got a degree in child psychology.
Yeah, she's getting the killer appears with the bodies and speaks in two different voices. One reprimands the other for allowing Nami to escape, and one is obviously quite a low manly voice, and the other is childlike. Maybe feminine.
An older lady voicing
yes,
a child.
Very much so. It's also giving Mrs. Voorhees.
It is.
Kill her, mommy, kill. I can't do it, but you get the gist. If you've seen Evil Dead Trap and not seen Friday the 13th, then that's on you.
That's strange.
That's on you. The killer finds Nami and she berates him. She calls him a psycho mummy's boy. Very much Scream.
Yeah.
And he takes off his mask, and it's revealed, to no one's surprise, to be Daisuke. He is the killer.
Yeah, which is great, because I feel like the filmmakers made it so obvious on purpose.
Yes.
Because you think that's it, that's the twist, how predictable, what a shame.
Yeah, the only person in the film to have a speaking, line and not have already been killed.
Yeah.
The guy with so many red flags.
Yeah, it's so obvious, but you haven't seen half of it yet.
Absolutely. So we're getting quintessential slasher film. The guy very much has mummy issues, and that's why he's killing people. This is what we see from this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's revealed he's the killer. I'm assuming we're going to get some sort of flashback to Christmas time. His mother's getting shagged under the Christmas tree, and that's why he's a killer, and this, that, and the other. So you think you're in stereotypical slasher film territory here. Not quite. Nami, having the gun, tells him it's over, and he will need to go to the police. But he's pleased it's over, and that he's been wanting it to end for a while now. Seemingly, this means wanting to kill himself using random explosives that subsequently go off. I don't really get this part. Why are these explosives?
They're traps. They're Evil Dead traps.
Yeah, but who for? Himself?
Her, I assume. But they do go off, and it activates the sprinklers.
It does.
Which sets the scene for a very great set piece.
Yes.
I mean, it looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She ends up accidentally shooting him after another one of the explosions, and he asks her to shoot him again and calls her an idiot when she refuses to.
I mean, he's right.
He's right.
As much as I love her, he's right.
He's right. Because then, should we say it together?
In a bizarre
series of events, a large, tumorous piece of flesh that Daisuke refers to as his brother Hideki exits his bullet wound and turns into an alien baby-looking creature. Nami tries to escape, but accidentally shoots a gas tank, whilst Hideki is burning a hole through the door.
Yeah.
So she accidentally sets off, and I just got in my notes, get it together, bitch.
Hideki can breathe fire.
Yes. Hideki then wraps what appears to be an umbilical cord around Nami's neck before Daisuke stops him and forces him back into his body and stabs himself before bursting into flames. I know what you're thinking, but I wasn't drinking whilst we watched this film. This is actually what happens.
It is absolutely bizarre, and it's so entertaining. It's so gooey. It's so bloody. It's just disgusting. And the fact this is a low-budget film, it just blows my mind because this looks incredible.
Yeah, it's pure body horror. David Cronenberg would have been jealous.
Yeah.
Well, no, he wouldn't, but you know what I mean. Would have been proud.
Yeah. What makes me laugh is after all of this, and after he's obviously, burst into flames and everything, Nami's just like, now I get it. Now I get it. You wanted it to be over.
Literally, no shit, Sherlock. The burnt corpse then comes back alive and starts to strangle and beat up Nami before she stabs him in the eye, and he flies out the window, breaking apart after hitting the ground. And again, in my notes, I've got this ending is a lot.
Yeah.
Nami wakes up bandaged in hospital, and a policeman gives her a ciggy straight away. He says we couldn't identify the charred man. And he also says that they couldn't find Hideki, the 30-centimeter tall baby as described by Nami. Okay?
Yeah.
Couldn't find this baby,
mm-hmm.
and they couldn't identify the charred man. Yeah?
Yeah.
So we then cut to Nami out of her bandages, presenting her new show, as I've learned. The late...
Nami's late night.
Yeah. And she gives the names of her colleagues who were murdered before plucking out a grey hair, saying, I look 20 years old. And my question is, why the fuck are people believing her story? This shit you can get away with.
I know.
A pretty face.
I know.
And beautiful curly locks.
But yet the detective was like, "Hey, don't fucking tell anyone about Hideki. I mean, we don't want them to think you're going crazy now, do we?"
Exactly.
But you can tell them all that all your friends died whilst you were there alone with them.
There is absolutely no logical reason why she would not be on trial for the murder of her colleagues.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. But of course that wouldn't be entertaining right
No.
now. What would be entertaining is an assistant telling her that someone dropped something off for her at the studio and then handing her her lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Nami then grabs at her neck in pain before very graphically giving birth to Hideki. To which Hideki says, "Mummy." And the film ends there.
That is Evil Dead Trap.
That is Evil Dead.
I love that when she was giving birth, you could see like little explosions in her, like the fireworks were back again.
Yes. But very graphically, we see this very large child head pop through.
Mm-hmm.
Not. We don't see that area, but
No.
we sort of get a very graphic close-up of the head coming out somewhere.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely batshit insane.
Definitely, when you start the film, it's not where you think it's gonna end up.
No.
But I love it. It's really such a great film that I think has been influential in other films.
Mm-hmm.
And it really just deserves way more attention.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. For its faults that we've discussed, it's a highly entertaining film.
Yeah.
Completely ridiculous. Very over the top. And that's what we love. If you love shit like that, then it's absolutely for you. You know, very gory, rather grotesque at times, and a fun ride. I think maybe personally, it was quite lengthy.
Yeah.
I think it could have been shaved off. But overall, yeah, fun time for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we give it some awards?
Yes.
Biggest queen, it has to go to Nami.
It is.
A girl who is willing to down an open can of coffee, tie her hair up, and go hunt down a serial killer. I mean, you know, it's got to be.
Despite being a bit dense at times, I mean, she is our final girl,
She
and
is.
I support Andy McDowell lookalikes, and I support women. So yes, absolutely, biggest queen.
The biggest gasp, I mean, it has to be Daisuke giving birth to Hideki.
Yes.
No one saw that coming.
Nobody saw that coming. I went also with the snuff film, particularly the eyeball spurting. I think because how gruesome it sort of came out of nowhere at the beginning, like right at the beginning.
Best dialogue, I've got the monologue. Just kill me, pervert. Is killing really that much fun? Do you enjoy it? I'm not afraid of you. You're never gonna beat me.
I went for similar, but it's the other monologue that she does to him about him being a psycho mummy's boy.
Yes, and that's camp. I've got Nami in bed after everything that just happened in hospital and having a ciggy with the detective.
I have to say, I went with that camp. I went with the birth scene just because it's so ridiculous and so over the top. But yeah, I think interchangeable with biggest gasp for that one as well. But yeah, I went with the birth scene.
Ratings, I give it 9 evil brothers obsessing over their favourite late night TV mother out of 10.
I went with 8 reckless coffee consumptions out of 10.
Masterpiece, trash piece, trash, basically a camp or bunch of fun. I think it's closest to Masterpiece. It's not quite there, but it's closest.
I think so. It's very, very good. It's close to. I do really think that the use of sexual assault really pulls it down. I don't think I could ever give the Masterpiece title to a film with that, unfortunately.
It's available on video on demand for now, but it's coming soon from 88 Films on Blu-ray if you're in the UK.
Yeah, so excited for that release.
Yeah, and the sequel.
And the sequel, which we haven't seen.
Yeah. And if you enjoyed this, I recommend checking out Videodrome.
Absolutely. If you enjoyed this, I recommend checking out Sweet Home, the Kiyoshi Kurosawa film from the following year. I feel that's more of a ghost story, but I feel like it's got a similar vibe to it. Yeah, I really enjoyed Sweet Home. That may be a future podcast episode for future Japanuaries.
Yeah. Check us out on social media. We are Horror Cult Trash over on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Horror Cult Trash on Twitter. I'm Gaz92 on Letterboxd, Gazmo205 on Instagram, and GazChris92 on Twitter.
I'm Chris Barker 823 on Instagram and Letterboxd.
And we're also Gasp Horror Festival across all social media.
I love how we just keep this shit.
Give us a rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, not based on the last 5 minutes, like a follow on everything else. Next week, it is the conclusion of Japanuary.
Oh.
And what has felt like the longest month in history.
January's been long.
It's good. Made the most of life.
Yeah,
every
fantastic.
Second.
Yeah.
And also the first of our original versus remakes in the new format as well. An original versus remake on a Tuesday for the first time.
Not on a Tuesday.
And of course, to end Japanuary in style, we will be discussing a threesome of Ju-on the Grudge.
Ooh.
So we'll be discussing Ju-on the Curse, Ju-on the Grudge, and Sam Raimi produced The Grudge.
Yeah.
2004.
Ju-on the
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah.
So we'll be back same time, same place next week.
Bye.